Hello. The Divine Code reading for September 28th, pages 225 and 226. We're on the chapter Objects Offered to Idols and Decorations of Idols. Number 3. Any natural object, such as a star, mountain, tree, or animal, that was worshipped as a deity, but which was not altered by the worshiper through an act of the idol worship, does not become forbidden for benefit, as was explained in the last chapter. However, any coverings of the natural object that is served as an idol becomes decorations for idolatry and are forbidden to benefit from. So if a person were to worship a boulder or a tree or something, the boulder or tree, unless they're changed in some way for the idol worship, still remains a natural object. If it hasn't been changed, it would remain a natural object, and it hasn't changed its status as being idolatrous or not. It would still be okay to use that boulder or tree because it's just a natural object. However, if there are things, accoutrements that were used for the service, as part of the service, those accoutrements, those extra things would have the status of idolatry on them. Rambam, The Laws of the Stars to Worship and Idols, 8.7, Shulchan Aruch, Yoreh De'ah, 145.2. It is permitted to benefit from an offering brought to a star, moon, cloud, mountain, or a sea, or any other natural entity that is attached to the earth, and the offering does not become a forbidden. For example, an animal that was slaughtered by means of serving a mountain as a deity. See Shulchan Aruch, Yoreh De'ah 4.5, and Rima, Shulchan Aruch, Yoreh 145.2. However, some rabbinical authorities say that the offered item does become forbidden, but if one performed such a deed with the intention of bringing a healing, and he did not accept the entity as a deity, they also agree that it is not forbidden. So in most cases, if someone brought an offering to the sea, brought sand or something, he threw it before the sea as an offering. The sea is a natural object, and therefore the offerings given to the sea would be considered just a consequence. Some rabbinic authorities would say that someone threw sand in front of the sea as an offering to the sea. The sand should be forbidden for benefit. You can't take that sand then and use it for something. Use it to make concrete or whatever you use sand for. But most likely you would be allowed to, unless you want to be extra pious and say you don't want to sand. That would be a measure of extra piety. If one slaughtered, worshiping an angel of a star, mountain, or sea, etc., the slaughtered animal is considered an offering for an idol, and it is forbidden for benefit. So there's a difference between offering something. I mean, just if you bring the animal to the sea, if someone brings the animal to the sea as an offering, and they just leave the animal there, someone else can come along and take the animal home and use it for benefit. But if someone slaughtered the animal, that's an act of temple worship with that animal. That would make the animal forbidden for benefit. Someone cannot take the carcass and use it for benefit. And that's Shulchan Aruch, Yoreh De'ah, chapter 4. Also more deeply here, see Shakti or Dea 4:8 and 145:7. There are dissenting opinions as apparent from the opinion of Rambam. See topic 3:12 above. That was an earlier chapter in the laws of idolatry. It is possible that Rambam holds that the only prohibitions of a Gentile to benefit from an item offered to an idol is from the general prohibition of benefit from an idol, but something offered to a mountain is only forbidden from the verse Deuteronomy 32:38. Where is their God? The fat of whose sacrifices they would eat, they would drink the wine of their libation, which applies this prohibition applies solely to Jews. Therefore, the prohibition of not benefiting from this comes from a verse in Deuteronomy that would be specifically for the Jewish people. Therefore, if a Gentile slaughtered for a mountain to serve it, it is possible that Rambam as well would agree this does not enter the category of items offered to a man-made idol and is permitted for benefit. Also, the difference is if it's slaughtered with the intention of worshiping the angel of a star, mountain, or sea, etc., the slaughtered animal is considered an offering for an idol. So the angel of the mountain is not the same as the mountain. So if the offering was given to the angel of the mountain, that would be a separate, a non-natural belief in idolatry. They're worshiping something besides the mountain itself. Or the angel of the mountain would be a full idolatrous thing, and therefore that offering would be forbidden. Topic number 4. If an animal is worshipped as an idol, any benefit that is offered to it as part of its idolatrous service is forbidden for benefit. For example, fruit that is offered before it, or another animal that is slaughtered as part of its service. Rima and Shulchan Aruch Yoreh De'ah 145:8. So the animal would not have the same status as a mountain or a sea. In the case of the animal, if something is offered to the animal, that would be the offering given to the idolatrous animal would be forbidden for benefit. Topic number 5. Meat or wine that has been set aside specifically to be offerings to an idol are not forbidden for benefit, even if brought into the temple once they have been offered, though they have the status of a sacrifice. If the worshippers then move them from the idol's temple to continue the service or to benefit from them, for example, to eat them, they are forbidden to benefit forever. Rambam Laws of the Worship Stars and Idols 7:15, Shulchan Aruch Yoreh De'ah, chapter 139. So something that's been consecrated, something that was set aside to be used as an offering to an idol. Just for being set aside, it would still have the status. If someone came along and used it for benefit before it had been offered, that would be permitted. But once it's been offered, once the consecrated item, once something, somebody says, I'm going to bring something to the idol. He wants to bring to the idol. That does not, it would still be allowed, he would still be allowed to use it. Somebody else could come along and still use it. Once it was brought to the idol, that's what changes the status. Once it was offered, I should say, to the idol, that's what changes the status of the item. Topic number 6. Performing any type of offering that is common for a sect of idolatry is considered part of its service, which makes one liable for idol worship. And the item offered becomes forbidden. So it depends on what within that particular idolatrous group, they would have a ritual, a book of rituals that explain how they do the service to that idol. So you'd have to look and see what they're offering something to the idol, and in order to know whether or not that item had changed status through the ritual for that particular idol. However, this does not mean that every type of item set before an idol is forbidden for any benefit. Only an idol that has at least somewhat equivalent to the offering that was brought for the service of God in his holy temple are forbidden to benefit from. If they are merely placed before an idol, these types of items become forbidden for being placed before an idol, even if it is not customary to serve the particular idol with that particular type of item. So this is similar to some of the laws regarding worship it's not similar. This is with the laws regarding service to the idol. If the idol is usually worshipped by bringing in toothbrushes, and someone brought a dental floss to that idol, bringing dental floss to an idol that is not customarily served by offering dental floss or bringing dental floss, that would not change the status of the dental floss. The toothbrush could not be used for benefit, but the dental floss could in that case. If the idol is normally served by bringing toothbrushes, and somebody brought an item that would be offered in the temple, in the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, that idol would change status. I'm sorry, that offering would change its status, even if it's not something that the idol would usually be served with. An item cannot be considered offered if it was merely placed before the idol, unless it has a corresponding type of offering that was allowed for the altar in the Holy Temple. Tor and Shulchan Aruch, Yoreh De'ah, chapter 139. The opinion of Rambam is that any item placed before an idol is forbidden to benefit by Torah law, as he clearly states this regarding fruits. Laws of the Stars of Worship and Idols, 7:15, and the Laws of Forbidden Foods, chapter 11. This does not necessarily apply only to something like the things that were offered in the altar in the Holy Temple, or actions that are comparable to the service of the altar, as explained in Beit Yosef and Shach Yoreh De'ah 139:3. However, most opinions hold that an item placed before an item is forbidden only if it is comparable to an item that was offered on the altar, or is something that was done to it is comparable to the service of the Holy Temple, as is the explanation of Tor and Shulchan Aruch there. This argument is based on the reasoning and source for forbidding an offering to an idol, as is explained in footnote 269 that was in yesterday's reading. According to Rambam, this prohibition is from the general prohibition to benefit from idol worship. Therefore, any type of offering to an idol is forbidden to benefit from, and as is the idol itself. But according to Ramban and others, there is an explicit verse for this prohibition, Exodus 34:15. Guard yourselves, lest you make a covenant, and he will call you and you will eat from his sacrifices. Therefore, from that verse, it would show that it's specifically to the Jewish people. When in the Torah, there's very explicit, this means this, and something else means something else. And in this case, we're learning this prohibition against deriving benefit from a specific verse, which is directed towards the Jewish people, and therefore would not necessarily be directed towards the nations. Whereas Rambam tends to make more broader categorizations that would apply to everybody in his understanding. But even in that verse, it would show that it's something that they use for their sacrifice. I mean, you know, if they're using it for their sacrifices, not necessarily something that may have been inadvertently brought in that was not part of their sacrificial service. So it's not totally clear how Rambam would have handled a dental floss being sacrificed or being offered as an offering to idol that usually takes toothbrushes. Would the dental floss be prohibited? It's not clear how Rambam would have approached that. An idol cannot be considered offered. I'm sorry. These items are cow, goat, or sheep, whether male or female, female or male doves. Oil, wine, flour, bread, water, salt, blood, wheat, sheaves, or grapes, those which are fitting to make into a meal offering, or wine, and olives that are fitting to make into oil. And this list, see Taz Yeridea 139.5. This does not apply to other types of meat. So just be the types of meat that are listed in the list, which are the types of meat that are brought, or types of animals that are brought in the Holy Temple. And see Tosafos on Rosh and Rosh on Tractate of Avodah Zarah 50a. And concerning blood, this is clear since it was sprinkled on the altar and is really a type of food like oil, though it is forbidden for Jews to drink it. Now continuing with Rosh on Avodah Zarah 50a, the rabbinic authorities do not mention an offering, an offered flour or myrtle. The reasoning appears to follow the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan, Tractate of Avodah Zarah 50a, that only foods that can become forbidden as offerings, merely by setting them down before an idol. The source text for this prohibition of benefit from idols offered to idols specifically mentions eating. So they're learning from Exodus 34:15, guard yourself lest you make a covenant with him. He will call you and you will eat of his sacrifices. So it's referring to eating at that point. Oh, that was also the verse that we learned that it was specifically for the Jewish people. So still, we're learning if we're learning from that verse also what is considered inappropriate for the non-Jews to be doing. That it refers to things that are eaten. Incense, which was burned on the inner altar of the holy temple, and frankincense, which is brought with a showbread inside the temple, and with meal offerings on the outer altar, are non-food items, and therefore are not considered offered items unless they are burned as a service to the idol, as explained. So apparently items, this here is specifically referring to the food items as being offered. They're being just, somebody brings these items to the idol and offers them to the idol. In that case, the offering itself, then a lot of times they would then take the items back and use them in their festivals. They're going to have a festival for the idol. They bring the food in front of the idol, offer it to the idol, and then take the food for their festival. And the festival becomes a festival for that idol. And that makes these items would be forbidden if it's used in that way. The other items, in order for it to be considered offered to the idol, would have to be handled in a manner similar to the temple service. And however that the temple service handles those items, which will be explained in more detail in tomorrow's reading. Thank you.